Welcome back to another episode of Aboutcast. Today, we are going to be doing a review on the highly awaited, highly exciting Attack on Titan episode 72. We have 3 more episodes to make this whole series full of everything. So there's a lot of action wrapping up this last season. And before we jump into all the good stuff in this episode review, I want to say what's up to my man and see how he's doing. Chris, how is it going?
I'm doing well, dude. Another great episode in the books. A lot to go over. This episode is super emotional and really, really intense. There's a lot of intense moments going on. So excited to talk about it with you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I feel like we are getting a little bit of retribution from all that patient waiting and listening to people talk about their lives and do a whole bunch of all that silly stuff when we were in that dead man zone of nothing was really happening in stage setting and all that good stuff. And now we are seeing some of those dividends pay off. And so I'm excited about that. But anyway, as we move on to this episode, we essentially, well, before I think it's important to talk about the episode title because that comes into play, and it is Children of the Forest. And this starts out with a flashback of Zeke illustrating how he turns villages, and specifically the Rakago village, into Titans. And so obviously we know a little bit about his spinal fluid causing Titans to form. And so he actually showed that in a gas form in his kind of story that is made out to be kind of a memory flashback. And another one of those interesting pieces there is that everyone in the village was paralyzed when it happened. And this is something he's telling Zeke, or not Zeke, but Levi. And this is not the first time that they talked about this either. Is, you know, when we're doing the stage setting, and this is kind of the first little bit that we see, Chris, this was actually, you you messaged me and said the first 2 minutes are a little spicy. What was going through your head when you were watching that?
Just the fact that he was like, this story or this particular scene was like brought to our attention. Another thing was we finally figured out what happened, like how Connie's mom got turned into a Titan, because that is Connie's village. So it was kind of cool to see them bring to light like what happened exactly to them and how it happened and all that good stuff. And just it's spicy in a way that like it's setting up this whole wine thing and the theory that I had and all that stuff. So it was just all of that stuff kind of bringing into the first 2 minutes of the episode.
I really, well, number one, that's a great call as far as your memory goes, and remembering that is Connie's village. And it really sits well with you when you're hearing that story, especially knowing that Connie's village, or specifically his mom, was turned into a Titan when she was upside down and couldn't move at all. So really, this whole paralyzed theory doesn't sound too bad when you kind of compare it to what we have as far as evidence of that village kind of being turned all the way through. But once again, a huge nod to the theory, which I think, we could finally say, yeah, it's certifiably correct that this man is a shot caller when it comes to theories, and has called out probably one of the biggest little things that we have, or maybe not, it's not even little, it's like one of the biggest plots that we have in the season of Attack on Titan. So I want to give you a round of applause, Chris.
Thanks, homie.
Yeah, bro, you got to be recognized for all that excellent effort and just great strategy as far as thinking. We have like a Hanji in real life right now.
I would like to be referred to as Armin.
All right, well, dog, come
I'm
on.
Just kidding.
Well, I was about to say, let's not get out of hand here. We have a lot of Attack on Titan left. But I'd be open to calling you that if you called out the rest of the rest of everything that is going to go down. Which I'll give you the opportunity to at the end of this podcast if you'd like. So the offer's on the table. I'm going to give you some time to think about it.
Okay, that sounds great.
No pressure. So anyway, once we get through kind of the intro there, we have the restaurant scene, which is, obviously we know that the family of orphans that Gabby and Falco, or Ben and Mia, are a part of, go to the Marley chef, who has a restaurant, is super fancy. And dude, I think this is like a big trip up by me personally, but I never mentioned that Mr. Braus was Sasha's dad, and that's how they got the invite to the restaurant. I think I totally goofed on that to mention that on the pod.
Hmm. I thought we did, but
I mean, maybe
yeah, whatever.
if we did, then that's perfect. Then
Yeah.
we, you know, we're on the mark. But I just found that super interesting, and one of those other full cycle things there, as far as like the
Mhm.
Phoenix and being reborn, that the well, I mean, I could talk about this again, and I'm going to save people who are playing the drinking game from taking another shot, so let's move on there. um Essentially, we have kind of a deep dive into that specific kind of people separated by the, like, the second degree. So we're talking about, Mr. Braus and uh Nicolo, and how, Nicolo was just kind of rumored to be like super in love with his girl, or his daughter, Mr. Braus's daughter, who is Sasha, and that's why they're there, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So it seems like pretty regular. And then Gabi and Falco are, of course, setting the scene to talk to this Marley dude, and hopefully kind of touch base. They're doing their spy work right now, and everything should be good. And once again, it's kind of interesting to see that Gabby's still like pretty gung ho on, like, screw these homies out here in Paradise. I'm trying to, show out for my team back home. The I just find the whole kind of like the scene interesting. And from your perspective, Chris, like, walk us through what happens when they finally get down to that basement. And, well, no, even before then, because the scouts show up, right?
I don't. I think the scouts show up after all of that happened.
No, they don't, because
Oh no.
Nicolo
Yeah,
has the
you're right.
wine bottle, right?
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so the scouts did show up. Well, first of all, the Browse family and Gabby and Falco and everyone else, they show up for dinner, and then like while Nicolo's making the food, his assistant, I don't remember if he had a name or
I
whatever,
think he
or
does, but it's irrelevant. Well, I mean, kind of irrelevant.
yeah, for now we'll just leave him to Mr. Assistant. But Mr. Assistant comes and tells him that the scouts have arrived and wanted to talk to Nicolo. And basically, Nicolo sends him to, I guess, this special room that has he would keep the MPs there to serve them food and things like that. And kind of in that scene, you see uh, John and Connie talking about this this bottle of wine that the MPs have been raving about and all this other stuff. And then you see Nicolo kind of freak out and grab the wine from John and say that, like, we can't waste this wine on you Aldeans and things like that. Um and then from there, like, I think that was about it, right? For that particular part of the scene. Was there anything else that stood out to you?
Not so much. I mean, it was just obvious, like, how on the back foot he was with that stuff, and
Hmm.
how, his whole kind of, he was just like ridiculously protective of that bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And we, of course, if you are an Aboutcast listener and have been following along in this series, which you should, because we've been kind of on top of the game here, you know exactly why he's doing that. And then I think you're good to go. There's not much else I can pick from that scene. So
Yeah. So then Nicolo heads down to, I believe it's the same cellar from the past couple episodes. Uh, and that's when Gabby and Falco also kind of follow him down there. And then this is when Gabby just starts like running her mouth about how proud she was about killing a certain soldier who came and raided Liberio. And it comes to find out, Nicolo realizes that she was the one who killed Sasha. and then he just goes on an absolute rampage and grabs that bottle of wine. He's about to smack her in the head, but Falco, being the amazing person that he is, and just seeing how much I think he loves her. So I'm going to say, seeing how much he loves her, he jumps in front of her, knocks her out of the way. He gets knocked out by the bottle of wine, and then we just see this scene where it's just super intense, and you see kind of Gabi and Nicolo kind of, I guess, talking really intensely about their feelings and stuff like that. We end up seeing Nicolo knocking
Bef-
Gabi out, and that's
yeah,
the end of the scene.
yeah,
But
dude.
there's a lot of different things that are going on with that scene too, and one of the main things and one of the crazier things that happens is you see a little drop of wine go into Falco's mouth. And that is super concerning, super crazy if we're following my theory and stuff like that. But Jordan, what are your thoughts on all of that? And do you have anything else to add?
Well, I think you really surmised it really well. The whole, it was a super super intense scene, so that foreshadows or kind of goes back to what you were saying originally with everything, and then the foreshadowing with the wine, that was perfect. And another thing that I wanted to highlight is just kind of a reaffirmation of character and how the complexity and the different nuances of these characters really manifest themselves in interesting
Mm-hmm.
situations like this. But it's super super clear just off of pure observational skills and empathy that Falco knows exactly who Nicolo is,
Mm-hmm.
and that he cared about Sasha without knowing anything else. Then Nicolo asked Gabi if they killed anybody on the ship,
Mm.
which is like, I think, quite extraordinary that he can pick that up so quickly. And then obviously the whole situation happens, and then here we are with a knocked out Falco and a punched out Gabi.
It's freaking crazy, man. And I think they do, like Gabby does mention that they're warrior candidates and stuff like that, and I think that's how Nicolo kind of pieces everything together. And I do also think that Nicolo might have mentioned it, like when they first got to the restaurant, about how he knows Mr. Braus and stuff like that. But I could be totally wrong on that, and that's how Falco realizes who Nicolo actually is. And it's also crazy just to see like how much love Nicolo actually had for Sasha. Because to me, it seemed like it was kind of just this thing where it was this girl who really liked his food, and that was about it. But it's just really crazy to see that, and also crazy for Gabby and Falco to realize that like a Marlian and a person of Paradise can love each other and like and intermingle and live together and stuff like that. It's just really interesting. Like this whole scene was pretty crazy.
It's another clear kind of aspect of why Gabby's one dimensional type of like operandus is just horrible for the complexities of, like, like humans.
Mm-hmm.
And in this sense of just kind of like one directional, these guys are devils, they're the worst, can't wait to kill them all type of thing, when there's just so much more like detail and nuance to it all. And that's where she's, found put herself in bad situations, whether it be on the run, almost, just being like stranded in this situation where Nicolo, a Marleyan, is trying to like attack her and things of that nature. So I just find it kind of funny that we get reminded once more of kind of like character tropes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I totally agree with you that there was a lot more connection with Nicolo and Sasha than just the food. And it's, I think, one of those things where I'm sure if we had the manga, we could have seen a little bit more. Or we read the
Yeah.
manga, we would see a little bit more of that. And once again, this is just kind of this is just me like hypothesizing, but I feel like one of that type of relationship would have been excellent to dive into a little bit more and like show a little bit more color on.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The the next scene that we see here is, obviously we have this kind of like Nicolo standoff. He has a knife. He has Falco under his arm, and then Gabi um, is like on the floor, and he's in front of the kind of like the Braus company, and then the scouts come in too once Armin alerts all of them to what's going on. And essentially, he's just like a cold dude with it and says, "All right, Mr. Braus, you got dibs since she killed your daughter, but if you're not really into it and it's gonna ruin your meal, like I'll take care of business." So he's super cold with it, like, happy to kill a kid. And granted, this kid is a, part of this warrior candidate program. So she's absolutely a hardened, killing machine in a sense, but
Mm-hmm.
still a kid nonetheless. And this is where we get this like super intense standoff. And before we go any further, was there anything you noticed from that kind of, that little bit of dialogue before Mr. Braus kind of, you know, takes the knife? Was there anything that you picked up in particular, Chris?
No, not really. I think you pretty much nailed everything. It's just crazy to me that he'd be so willing to kill a kid. But yeah, like I said, you've pretty much nailed everything. So I think we can move on. I would love to hear your thoughts on the next little bit.
Yeah, man. So essentially, this next bit is the Mr. Braus takes the knife from Nicolo, and obviously Gabby's like, "Well, I'm done," because if any, knowing her, if it was her position, uh, this person that killed her daughter would have been absolutely just, maybe tortured even, but definitely killed. Um, and he goes into somewhat of a monologue talking about the history of, how, you know, his daughter grew up and like how the family interacted with everything. And essentially what happened was they're an extremely poor family. If you remember from, I believe it was season 1 that we saw a little bit of it, or maybe it was season 2 that we saw some of Sasha's background, and they're extraordinarily poor and just kind of like ate little varmints is what he says from the forest. And essentially knowing that his daughter needed a better life, he sent her away from the forest, and then that's how she got involved in the military. And this essentially saying, you gotta like send the child away from the forest where life is too, you know, life is just to survive there and not to grow or flourish. And that sacrifice for them as far as a family is extremely large, because that was kind of the source of food, because Sasha was just such an excellent archer. And I think like kind of like a great analogy is, imagine if the Hunger Games was like, involved in this, and you can think of Katniss Everdeen's family, similar skill set and everything. She would like
Mhm.
kill to animals of the forest to get food for her family. And imagine if her family said, "Katniss, you need to have a better life than this, and it won't be by staying here. So go and, find better opportunity in the city or somewhere outside of the forest." So that's kind of like how big that type of move was, to kind
Mhm.
of risk your own existence for the betterment of somebody else, or the daughter. And so essentially the whole point, or the whole metaphor of what Mr. Braus was saying, is that the the child in this instance is, in the chaos and everything like that. And, the best thing to do is send them away from all of that chaos and madness, and accept, or the force of regret even, or revenge, and let the adults kind of bear the brunt of the hunger pains of unrealized revenge, in a sense. So to break the cycle, and once again, this is another thing that we've seen so many times in this whole series, as far as like the cycle of revenge and everything like that. Another reoccurring theme, of course, but this is just kind of like a really, really nice metaphor of what's going on here, and why Mr. Braus is not going to kill Gabby, even though she killed her daughter, and in a just an absolute kind of assassination, and it was like wanton. And of course, she was going to try to kill everybody in there, but Sasha happened to be the very unlucky one. Is there anything that you want to add to that or comment on?
Mm, no. So the part you're talking about, kind of the adults dealing with the hunger pains. Are you talking about kind of that quote when he said it's up to the adults to shoulder the sins of the past and it needs to stop with
Absolutely.
okay, cool. Yeah. No, I think it's so great what you said about the cycles. Because I kind of had that in my notes too. It's just that the adults in this situation being the Browse family, being the I guess the military and stuff, people like that, like they are the ones who kind of need to teach the children the something different because it's been like the same thing's been taught time and time again. And I just think it's really cool that Mr. Braus realizes this. And I think everyone in this in this Attack on Titan series needs to have a Mr. Braus in their life right now, just because he is just so different from everyone else, and his mindset is honestly like super beautiful. And yeah, I just have a lot of respect for this guy just because of all the things that he said and like the way that he's treating Gabby and Falco and stuff like that is it's just awesome. So yeah, that's all I have to add.
Yeah. It's yeah, and it's extraordinary too because you think about it, you know, the second that you send those kids out of that situation and you know this metaphorical place, the second that you lose the ability to kind of continue that revenge on in the first place, because it's like it will die with you unless you kind of grow this seed into a younger, you know, a younger human to
Mhm.
continue it on. So it like fully breaks the cycle and almost takes all of the responsibility on yourself,
Yeah.
which I find really interesting in the series where there's, you know, certain races that are fully condemned to being second class citizens and like, you know, killed without repercussions and things of that nature as far as
Mhm.
like the Eldians. Um but anyway, yeah, I think it's probably good to not add too much to what you said because it was excellent.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, anyway, and this is of course another like huge knock on, you know, knock on the door of Gabby's thick skull about revenge. And once again, she's just like
Mhm.
after lesson after lesson after lesson, she's just kind of still, you know, in disbelief of all of this stuff happening. And you know, at this point she's taken out of the room. But also another good note is that, you know, the other girl that saved them originally tries
Yeah.
to kill
Okay,
Gabby
yeah.
after that.
Yeah, that was sad to see, man. Just because I think it was the last episode of the whatever the episode that she took him to her destroyed village, and she was kind of talking about like this cycle and like kind of like we need to forgive and like why'd you kill my mom? Like she didn't have anything to do with it. Like all those questions that she was asking, and then she goes to this and tries to kill Gabby. It's really sad to see kind of this reoccurring cycle that we've been talking about.
Yeah. But I think this was actually quite, you could see it coming
Mhm.
if you had each of those things and then you just laid them out in paper as far as like this is what this person's been through, this is what they think, this is what happens. Because I don't think that she talked much about forgiveness, but the
Mhm.
innocence of her position and why, like, you know,
I
she had
see.
nothing to do with these things. It wasn't necessarily about forgiveness, but it was like why my particular, you know, my mom didn't do anything to you guys. And it
Yeah.
wasn't, so she was fully happy to continue that cycle of revenge
Mm.
and not willing to kind of like eat it type of thing, even though she
Yeah.
was helping Marlene's. um like her mom, these two particular ones had nothing to do with her mom's death, and that's why I think she was okay with helping them. But the
Yeah.
second that something happened to somebody she loved, that's why she tried to kill her.
Mm. That's good. I like that.
Thanks, my man. And so we have the huge, huge nod of something that we've talked about. Bro, was it about like 3 weeks ago that we mentioned this or talked about this thing with the wine? Are
Yeah.
you built this?
Yeah, I think it was about 3 weeks. That's when, that one episode when the, like, eerie scene when, Nicolo's helper came down, I was like, "This is this the right one?" That
Yeah.
episode? Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure it was 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, man. So once again, here's a lesson to you guys. If you guys want to be on the cutting edge of this stuff and leading your nerd friend group on what's what with Attack on Titan. Listen up, because we're ahead of the curve here. Anyway, so Nicolo finally admits that the wine has Zeke's spinal cord fluid in it, and then kind of things are affirmed, and it gets pretty hot in the restaurant, right? Because the scouts don't know what's going on. He also mentions, hey, you need to wash out Falco's mouth because something, some wine got in there, but it might be too late, type of thing. I really hope it's not, because Falco's one of those characters that has the force and the power to actually change characters over time.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, I mean,
maybe this happening to him might actually like maybe push Gabby over the edge and make her realize that she's thinking the wrong thing. Like maybe that's kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back for her. And it really sucked to see that happen. But maybe I don't know. Maybe that could be it.
yeah. I'm willing actually to go out on a crazier limb here.
Uh-oh.
Crazier limb. I'm thinking that actually got into his system, and that's how he's going to inherit a Titan ability,
Hmm.
because that's the only way that they would be able to inherit one, is to obviously bite a piece, obviously eat someone's spinal cord fluid as they are in Titan form.
Mhm.
So here's the only opportunity of my kind of season one long standing, or episode one long standing thinking of Falco getting a Titan power.
Do
So
you have any thoughts on who's it going to be?
well, obviously, like going back to the first very scene that we see out of everybody, Falco's flying around with ODM gear, or that's his memory of it all, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And so I'm thinking that it's gonna have to be somebody who's worked with ODM gear. So it obviously means Reiner is cool. Obviously Eren's cool, which seems about right. Armin's actually off the list because I don't think he's ever killed a Titan with ODM gear, but we know that
Mhm.
Eren and Reiner have, or at least I believe Reiner has. So that's why it's up to those two, and obviously Eren's kind of the hot ticket on the market. So, and we don't know if Reiner's even on the island. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's going to be Eren.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the same building too, which well, I kinda spoiled the rest of the pod there, but whatever.
No,
We're gonna get
no,
there
no, you're
anyways.
straight, bro. Yeah, we were going to get there anyway. And you should be watching the episode before
Yeah.
you watch this, of course, anyway, as well. So I also think that we're going to bounce from a scene or two,
Mhm.
just because we know that Eren is on his way to Zeke, and Zeke's not going to kind of like mount the offensive if Eren's too far away just yet. So we'll see them be on the move like we actually saw eventually. But to get back on track as far as scenes go, we jump back to the forest, and Levi hears about the assassination of Zachary and learns of kind of Pix's plan. And I find that this is like quite interesting that Commander Pix has essentially just said, yeah, Levi, you're gonna have to handle this crazy motherfucker. As far as Eren, best of luck to you. But if he sends him over there, then it's like it's up to Levi to like take care of business, which
Mhm.
is it's pretty. I mean, you gotta, Levi's pretty hardcore, but I think at this point, as far as power level goes, because I have my power level sensor, I stole it from Napa. I think that Levi's gonna have a seriously hard time
Yeah.
killing Eren.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. And that scene that you're talking about when he's in the forest, I did wanna mention, it was really cool, like, seeing that scene where he was kinda flashing back in a way to
Yeah,
all the
man.
times that he saved Eren and, like, how they're showing all of the different scenes on the trees. That was super cool. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that on Attack on Titan before, so I thought that was really cool how they did that and, all that good stuff. But, yeah, he's gonna have a real tough time killing Eren just because he was kinda saying, like, "Man, I've risked my life for this guy so many times and we've lost so many comrades," and like he's kind of put his entire faith into Eren and like he really truly believed that Eren was going to save humanity. And so yeah, it's going to suck if it's going to come down to that point cuz I don't know if Levi's going to make it out of there in time, man. It's I can't imagine an Attack on Titan without Levi.
Yeah, bro. They're gonna do us real fucking. They're gonna do us real dirty if they take out Levi, which is one of the most like hardcore, cool, and rallyable characters in the actual universe of Attack on Titan.
Hmm.
The couple things that I'm gonna give him a lot of advantage for is if they stay in the forest. That's obviously huge pro Levi, and also we know how like sharp we saw Levi when he was attacking Zeke in his beast form, when it was like his homie Irwin, his commander Irwin was literally riding into death and
Hmm.
sacrificing so many people. We actually saw that in the
Yep.
tree flashback, which was super cool. And how just like there was no shot for Zeke, even though he was like a super powered beast titan because he had royal blood. Like there was just no shot, man. I don't
Hmm.
even think like 9 out of 10 times Levi is winning, or like one out of
Yeah.
10 times Zeke is going to win that fight, bro. I think
Hmm.
it's even like fewer, maybe one, or maybe like 3 out of 90, 100 times Zeke wins. What would you put as far as odds go?
No, I totally agree with your odds. Dude, Levi is just he's on another level compared to anyone else as far as I guess using ODM gear and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
Zeke, like you were saying, he has no chance, no chance against this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So uh we're I think there's a really good chance of this not happening, of course, just like this being totally avoided, but
Hmm.
also Levi has some pretty decent survivability in a situation of Eren in the forest and all of that good stuff. But as we move on and um stop our supposition of something that might not happen, we get back to the restaurant and it is as hyped as it can be once we actually realize that the spinal cord paralysis thing is a lie. And we know that from a few things, right? And I would like to hear if I'm missing a point or if you have a contradictory point to what I was just going to say. The reason why it's like impossible for them to be paralyzed when that happens is because of the 10 years ago they took over a capital in a night
Hmm.
off of Zeke's spinal cord fluid. So there in itself, I feel like it's impossible for people to be paralyzed by it.
Yeah.
And also, there's something huge there that was kind of that I just literally right now picked up. If Zeke is turning people into Titans, that means that that whole capital was full of descendants of the subjects of Ymir.
Hmm.
Where was that
Or
capital?
great question. Or another thought that I had was that they sent in some, I guess, Eldian captives that they had, and
Mm,
maybe just had them like undercover or something like that. But I did have that question too of where that was, because that I think is a huge piece of the puzzle that we kind of need to know.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it it opens up a lot of stuff and to save time with some of the rabbit holes that leaves for us to hopefully step over or adeptly dip our toe in and then dip out. That either means that a whole other country or like country has LUDs in it, or they did the spy thing where they just kind of
Mhm.
drop some in. And I noticed that the architecture was quite different though.
Yeah.
So it's like you'd have to really be careful on who you put into that environment. Even if you dropped in just random subjects of Ymir, they all look German for the most part, unless they're conquered from another place. And then, the chances of them having that genetic capability are almost zero. So it almost seems strange. And I think it's probably makes more sense for them to be subjects of Ymir wherever they were at. But who
Yeah.
knows, man? Do you have any other kind of quick ideas on that one?
Mm, no, I don't think so. Yeah, the only idea I had was that they had like the spy thing going on and they dropped some in there. But I mean, it would be very interesting if there was another, I guess, subgroup of the Eldian race that we don't know about yet. I mean, I guess it would
Mhm.
make just the world a little bit bigger and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's really interesting what they're kind of saying in that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it opens up a lot of doors, but for right now, since it's kind of like a little footnote, we'll save that for possibly another episode if we get enough interest on it.
Mhm.
But essentially, now we have it getting really, really spicy with Eren happens to just kind of like stroll in, say, "What's up, guys," with his cut hand. And, he just sits down and wants to talk. And this sounds vaguely familiar. When was the last time you wanted to talk with a cut hand?
Dude, he
That homeboy is just bad news at this point.
whenever you see that cut hand now, it's like,
It's
"Oh,
just like, oh
oh shoot,
no.
what's going
Yeah.
on?"
You're like, hey bro, I was just about to go to the bathroom, man. Um, just stay here. I'll be back.
Mhm.
And then just run. Um, so
Yeah.
this is crazy, dude. We have there's a lot of dynamics here. Like in that
Mhm.
room, just by itself, man, you have the three of the best friends. Like Mikasa was there saying, like, "Hey, I'm here to protect Eren for the majority of her life," and now it's kind of switched. She wants to protect her country more than Eren.
Mhm.
So she is kind of a reason, even though it's not an emotional reason, it's a logical reason to kind of attack and kill Eren. Armin, he really was kind of seeking to understand Eren, so there's going to be a lot of information that he wants to collect from this. And then we
Yeah.
can't forget about Gabi, whose sole, reason of existence now is to kill Eren.
And he's
Crazy
right
room,
there.
bro.
He's
Yeah,
right there.
she obviously can't do anything, and if she did, it'd be a really, really quick death for her. And she's smart
Yeah.
enough to realize that as far as combat goes. But it's insane. That level of tension, and I wish that, granted, these episodes are quick and they have a lot to get put
Mhm.
in these, short stints of time, but that would have been amazing to see a little bit more of that just like natural pressure that we would
Yeah.
see in that room, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. And I think another thing that we didn't quite touch on was kind of the interactions between Gabi, Mikasa, and Armin before Eren walked
Mm,
in. 'Cause Gabi was just like, "Why are you guys protecting me? Like, I killed these people," and all that stuff, and Armin kinda goes on to say, he basically said that he's tired of people killing people, and it just seems like he wants that peaceful resolution. And then he says something like he "You remind me of a person that I know." And it's just cool to see that again, that connection between Aaron and Gabby and how they're so one track minded and how Armin has now realized that. But yeah, that's kind of just what I wanted to mention. Did you have anything else to add on that?
no, man. Well, number one, thanks for bringing that up because that is an important conversation that they had. And one more time of, Gabby getting told, hey, the world's a lot deeper than these people are enemies and these people aren't. So I, you know, I think that was an important thing to
Mhm.
highlight there.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure after right after Armin said that, Aaron walks in. And so that
Yeah.
was just it was just really cool to see all that play out
Hmm.
and all those connections and stuff like that.
And I have a question for you, man. Do you think that obviously that's like a super, super obvious nod of saying you're exactly like Aaron or you're exactly like, and then Aaron shows up. So of course the answer to that is you're exactly like Aaron the way you think. But do
Mhm.
you think that either this season or maybe it's just our analysis is so much deeper, but I feel like some of the Attack on Titan like references or like little notes and hints are a lot more on the nose than they have been in previous episodes, or we
Mm.
might just understand the universe better. What are you
Mm.
thinking?
Dang. Um, I do think they're a little bit more obvious this time around this season. But it could just be us being like you said, like analyzing absolutely everything too.
Hmm.
But as I've told you before, I've been rewatching the the past seasons, and you're totally right. Like in the past seasons, they gave us absolutely nothing, like all the time, and yeah, they are definitely giving us a little bit more than they have been in the past for sure.
Yeah, and I think, well, I guess there's a couple reasons, and just to go in this a little bit, because I think it's kind of a cool little note to talk about. 'Cause it's kind of meta, and I kind of get boners for meta stuff like this. But essentially, I think there's might be a few reasons. One, because we know so much more about the universe that they can't really hide enough stuff from us now, and
Mhm.
they need to be. Like, I love my analogies. So here's another one. But if we and the Attack on Titan story plot line are at a bar and it approaches us in a cool scout way with, a lot of slick talking lines and stuff, there's a lot more reason to be kind of sly and clever at the beginning of the night. And then, as you kind of get the sense and feel that it's about to be closing time and the lights are going to get flipped on and everyone's going to scatter like roaches, that you're going to be a lot more kind of less kind of innocuous with the things that you do
Mhm.
to, at the end of the night. And now we're at the end of this universe. So I think that that might be a thing as well. Just kind of
Yeah.
the natural progressions of the interactions between the plot line and us. Um, it's kind of at that stage where you don't have to be as subtle with things, and we'll still appreciate them a bit.
Yeah,
What are your
for
thoughts
sure.
on that?
No, I think that's great. And that was actually not your, I guess your comparison or whatever with the bar and stuff, but I was gonna say, like, yeah, there
Wait, hold up.
were
You don't think that was great?
no, no, it was awesome. Stop,
No,
stop. That's not what I was saying.
I'm joking.
No, but I was just gonna say that yeah, we're starting to reach the end of it all, and it's time to stop hiding stuff because there's just no other way around it really. Since we're so close to, I just get so sad when I say we're close to the end. Uh, but yeah, man, that's pretty much all I have with that. It's just one of those things, you know.
Yeah. I think that, there's a few reasons, I guess, essentially at the end of the day that we're seeing these things in a little bit more blatant of a light.
Hmm.
But I think we can leave it there. And then, if we want to pick that up later, we can. But anyway, so we're at kind of like the end of this episode, and unfortunately it's the spiciest time ever. But I if Aaron's there, that means the Jaegerists are there too, with a little posse, um led by Flock. And I don't know if you noticed this, but even though they were tipped off obviously of the scouts being there, Flock still acted excited, or not excited but surprised that Hanji was there. Did you get that? He was, I mean, maybe he was just
Mm.
being kind of oh, he's just kind of being a smart ass, but he was like, oh, pleasant surprise. Now we can ask you where Zeke is, to
Oh,
them.
interesting. I didn't really pick that up. Do you know exactly like what he was saying or how he
Yeah, well,
was
it was just
kind
it was
of?
just that, right?
Mm,
So he like strolled in. Aaron knew the room that obviously Mikasa, Armin were in,
mm.
but Hanji was in the back washing out Falco's mouth. And then he came out and was like, "Oh, you're here. So
Oh, interesting.
you know how you happen to know where Zeke is, so spill the beans," type of thing.
Mm,
And it could
yeah,
be him just being kind of, just being a shithead.
I think he
And
was just being a smart ass.
yeah,
I don't like Flock, dude. He's got some serious cojones to point a gun at our girl Hanjay and the rest of the
yeah.
scouts. Like, come on, dude. Like, you
And
haven't
he's
done.
not,
Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, because you were gonna say something similar to what I was gonna say, that he's not hardcore enough to be pulling shots like this.
No. Yeah, I
But
mean, yes, he was the survivor with Erwin and
yeah.
stuff, but
Mhm.
in that scene and in that season, like, he was an absolute coward. Like, he did not want to do it at all. Yes, he did go out on those horses and survived and stuff, but nah, nah. He has done nothing to deserve what he's doing and stuff like that.
Yeah, like he's yeah, for sure. He is it's like the classic saying of and I guess maybe this isn't the perfect one, but that don't let your bulldog mouth get in the way of that puppy dog ass is
Mm.
something that reminds me of. But
Mhm.
that's a whole nother thing, man. I'm curious. I mean, we could talk about this too in a different podcast, but um it's super fascinating to me, the attitudes of people that do like brave things. Cause it's like, you don't necessarily always have to have a brave attitude when you're doing something brave. You can be scared to death,
Mhm.
um, and still accomplish the goal. But you used that particular case of him being scared doing that thing, even though he just literally ran his horse and happened to be luckier than anybody's business. But
Mhm.
yeah. So moving on, we have this kind of we learn a lot of information. One, that they rejected the offer of negotiation from Pix. And I also wanted to mention that, did you notice that Haji was like trying to extract extra information from Flock that whole entire time?
No. Please
So
please say more.
yeah, man. So obviously, like Hanji's incredibly smart, and especially in this, being the commander of the scouts. But so she says, you know, obviously Flock says, yeah, we're not going to negotiate with them. Pix is trying to get Eren eaten and then stuff like that. And so Hanji, like, this is such a loaded question here that she has to say, but she's trying to negotiate for so much. She essentially says, so is this you guys as kind of like babbling, verses of a madman type of thing? Or is this your like spy on the inside that is telling you all this stuff?
Mhm.
So it's like right there.
Yeah.
His reaction will tell her a lot of things. And it was already mentioned that they have a few other people on the inside. Who those are, I'm not sure, but they absolutely would be people of influence and not kind of a peon, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Hmm. So you know how I was talking to you off the pod about if Aaron like truly knows what's going on?
Hmm.
Was this kind of particular scene when Hanji was questioning him and he kind of told her to keep her volume low? Like I was wondering, like did he not want Aaron to hear something like that? And that's why I'm wondering if Aaron actually truly knows what's going on with Yelena and Zeke and stuff like that.
Well, I think that there's, I don't want to downplay the meeting of Yelena and Aaron, because there's so
Oh,
much
I forgot
loaded in
about
that.
that.
Yeah. So I
Mhm,
want to give that like fair due credit.
mhm,
So let's say I would want to lean towards yes, just off of that. Two, to make that call for Aaron to say, no, we're not going to negotiate, means that he has enough information to know what the military is trying to do.
mhm,
So I want to say that he's like pretty involved. The whole game plan here, though, I'm not exactly sure. But this is kind of like a classic, dude. This is actually legit, kind of like the classic thing of, we see it in a lot of anime. The one that's coming to mind is kind of like Naruto at the very end. For all of you guys who haven't seen the very, very end of Naruto Shippuden, please skip this part. But remember how Sasuke kind of controlled all the tailed beasts and said, hey, so the ultimate piece is going to be me hanging out over the world with a big, big stick, and nobody's going to act a fool because they know that I'm going to smack them if they do. So it'll
mhm,
be peace in a sense. And I think maybe this is what Aaron's doing for kind of Paradis, and saying, um, nobody's going to mess with me because, number one, I'm going to destabilize the military enough that they don't have enough power to check me or challenge me in any way. And then I'm going to kind of like have the power of the rumbling to make sure that there's peace for Aldeans.
mhm.
And
That
so it's kind of like a small price to pay, messing, like killing the
yeah,
NPs. That's what
gotcha.
I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I'm just really concerned about Zeke because dude, I don't know. I just don't trust the dude. I don't trust Yelena, and I just feel like he's manipulating Aaron to do something that that Zeke himself actually wants to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm just not fully convinced that Aaron wants this to happen as well. So I just feel like he's kind of being deceived in a way by Zeke. I don't know how that it is right now, but I don't know. I just feel like Eren's being played big time by Big Bro.
Yeah, man. I've that's obviously a huge possibility, and it's kind of the classic. Um, is the dog wagging the tail, or is the tail wagging the dog type of
Mm,
situation? Like,
yeah,
to find out what exactly is happening, we're gonna have to figure out who is pulling the most threads here. Like, who's the compelling force in this thing? And
yeah.
I think even though Aaron has been the most dynamic in this kind of short time, Zeke, even from the jump of, talking to Aaron, or not talking to Aaron, but talking about how his spinal fluid situation works,
Hmm.
he's kind of set the stage up to influence Aaron a lot. So I think that Zeke is, in a sense, controlling Aaron through Yelena, through kind of hearsay and stuff like that, as far as setting the scene for everything. So I 100% agree that he should not be trusted. And I guess that also means, well, we know too that the Jaegerists know about the spinal cord stuff as
Yeah.
well. So,
Mm.
and another thing too, just a quick note. Here's another kind of like another layer of Hanji trying to get information. She never mentioned the MPs, and so this time it's like it was a success. The first time it
Hmm.
didn't kind of work necessarily. The second time it was a success, and they figured out from Flock mentioning like NPs are going to be taken out that she knows that they know about it.
Yep. Yeah, dude. It's uh next 3 episodes gonna be absolute craziness, man.
Yeah,
But
dude.
yeah, it's really good and awesome on Hanjay, and it just shows just how smart she really is to just get as much information as she can from whoever she can.
Yeah, man. Well, especially since it's like, dude, I think it's underplayed like in a real sense what kind of superpowers these scouts have.
Mhm.
Especially as a commander, like imagine being put in the most stressful situation where people that you love are going to die if you don't have a perfect execution of plan. And even
Mhm.
then, there's there's chances that people are going to die anyway. So having that type of pressure and then trying to plan out a strategic tactics and game plans in the long run, of multiple day missions and stuff like that. The I feel like these guys are so skilled and so sharp on some of this stuff that they're always going to be able to be like operate, like talk about clutch,
Mhm.
essentially is what I'm talking about. These
Yeah.
guys are as clutch as they get.
Yeah, they're almost like superhumans in a way, really. When
Hmm.
you think when you compare them to even like different people in the different sectors of the military, like the people in the military police and the garrison, I just feel like they just don't compare or stack up to the scouts. Like the scouts are just they
Yeah.
they hit different, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think the other military, other branches of the military we've seen before in other episodes, they're weenies, right? They don't go
Mhm.
outside the walls. They don't see real business. They barely know how to use their ODM gear.
Yeah.
um, it's just kind of like clear that they are lacking in a lot of ways that the scouts are the most skilled at.
Mm.
And, Haji was just showing that right there with just kind of like high pressure, strategic, like, just outsmarting somebody by asking certain questions and attaining as much information as she can.
Mm.
So we'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, they're still humans and fallible, and we need a juicy plot, but
Mhm.
for the most part, man, I put my money on them.
Oh, another thing that I just thought of, kind of backtracking, sorry, dude. But um so you know how Pixis initially said that they were going to negotiate with Eren?
Hmm.
I feel like he told that to the scouts, but then now he's changing gears and planning to have Eren eaten.
Yeah.
It's just is this another way of the I guess the creators of Attack on Titan showing that the scouts are still not super trusted by everyone else in the military? Because I feel like the
I
scouts had no idea.
yeah. I mean, of course they were smart enough to figure it out. Like Armin
Yeah.
figured it out really quick and stuff.
Mhm.
So they have the ability, but if yeah, this is absolutely just kind of, you know, Paradis is in a really bad spot. They have Aaron to fight, they have Marley to fight, and they have their own distrust of each other to fight.
They have
So
like a civil war brewing too.
yeah, yeah. So it's and some of those things are their own fault, but other things are just kind of like horrific circumstance.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, is it that time for
I
theories?
think it's just
Are
that
we
time,
done?
man. Do you want to be called Armin or not?
Oh shoot. No, I think I'm gonna stick with Hanjay for now.
All right, bro. Yeah, that's a
Uh,
really great.
yeah, I think I'm gonna play it safe
So
for now.
honorable.
I'm gonna play it safe for
It's either
now.
that or you get called Flock.
Oh,
Season 3 Flock. So
yeah, nah,
yeah,
I'm good. Nope.
yeah, yeah. You're happy.
You want me to start? You want to go?
Now go for it, my man.
All right. Next episode. Hmm. I'm really excited to hear the conversation between Eren, Mikasa, and Armin. I think like, this is one of the first times that we see them actually talking, interacting. I mean, we got a little bit when they're on the aircraft that they were escaping Liberial from, but I think there's going to be a lot of juicy info coming from those interactions. Uh, man, I think the next episode we're gonna see what's gonna happen in the forest as far as people maybe turning into titans and uh Zeke maybe escaping from Levi and stuff like that. But man, I think it's called savagery.
Yep.
So I think we might be seeing some crazy stuff happening as far as maybe some people dying, maybe some super inhumane things going on. I don't know, man. But I think next episode, I feel like I keep saying this every single podcast. Next episode's gonna be real spicy, and uh, I'm hoping to see some Titan action actually, because I just miss seeing those Titans, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, maybe hoping to see what's going on with the Marlians, as far as like who's actually there, what they're gonna do, stuff like that, and maybe. Mm, oh, I forgot Gabby's gonna be in the room too, so that's gonna be interesting too. Yeah, man, next episode's gonna be good.
Yeah. They set it up so perfectly to be for it to be amazing,
Hmm.
and to kind of like spin my gospel. I think that this is the first time that we're seeing Armin, Mikasa, and Eren in a room with a conversation in s- since them invading Liberia, or like the attack itself. And even then they weren't kind of alone in a room.
Hmm.
So this is going to be a really, really interesting conversation. Just the amount of time that's been spent apart, the curious minds of what's going on. There's a lot of information that's going to be exchanged. So I fully anticipate doing like kind of a really in-depth analysis on that room in particular.
Yeah.
Like you said, Chris, I think there's going to be some spiciness in the forest itself, which is going to lend to Levi's skill set and the scout's skill set. The scouts
Mhm.
that aren't going to turn into titans, that is. And how ironic that Levi was just saying like it's been horrible having to sacrifice so many men for Eren. Well, I think he's going to have to kill some of his men
Yeah,
that turn into titans.
I have a feeling
So,
it's just gonna be him who's not gonna turn into a Titan.
and I still think that's an unfair fight for the Titans and Zeke.
Same.
Um, so I 100% anticipate some spiciness there. We hopefully are going to see some of that Marley and Pike just craziness, because once again she's kind of like the deep state Titan as far as spying goes. So
Mhm.
she can kind of like really go in the get in there. She's probably a lot quicker than Zeke and Eren as far as Titans go, being that she's a quad quadruped.
Mhm.
Um, so it'd be interesting to see how she plays in all of this attack and if she's actually involved in this. Um, so
What a
that would be
twist.
quite interesting as
Jeez.
well. Yeah. But, and also, I really am looking forward to being one episode closer to reaffirming my grand scheme as far as the Falco gets Aaron's Titan powers
Mm,
theory. But I think that's where it ends, man. It's
yeah.
going to be a lot of stuff to fit into one episode. So I don't think that they'll get to it all in one go. But if they do, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, judging off of the past episodes that we've had. Probably not all of it's going to happen, but man, if all of it does, all the stuff that we're talking about does happen, it's going to be a wild, wild, wild episode.
Absolutely. So, as in wrapping it up, Chris, thanks so much, man, for being on the pod once more, enlightening us with your Hanji greatness, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, man. It's always fun, a great time talking with you, talking to you guys about all of this. Yeah, really excited for next week, man. It's gonna be good. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for, listening. And once again, just another reminder, if you want to interact with us on YouTube, that'd be good because we're posting videos of this stuff as far as in wave form there. And you know where to find us for next week's Attack on Titan goodness. Peace.
Thank you.